Reaching the future generations and connecting them to Jesus is so important, and sometimes it can be difficult, especially with everything we have to compete with in the world today. This is why it's important to know the keys and use resources from people who are gifted in kids and youth ministry. And today I would like to introduce you to Daniel Buckle. Hi, Daniel. How are
Hello.
you?
I am fantastic. Thanks so much for having me on today. I'm pumped for this conversation. Really excited.
Oh, so am I. It's going to be a great topic because kids ministry is and youth ministries are two areas where you always have to uh, keep the training happening. You have to keep your resources up to date, and you have to be very wise and work out ways in how you can grab kids and youth attention. So, first of all, before we dive into that, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So I am the son of a ministry family. So my mum and dad are still pastoring up in Bundaberg, central Queensland at the moment, and been at the same church for I think it's over 30 years. So I was
Wow.
practically born under the front row of church. But growing up in a ministry family, obviously, I had a front row seat to everything that was involved that I was at least privy to seeing. The effort that went into pulling off growing church. And so, from like 10, 11, 12 years old, as I was starting to age out of kids ministry myself, I got into serving in my dad's kids ministry, and so I'd work with the kids pastor, and we would go home, me and a friend of mine, and we would write puppet shows, and we'd eat chips from down the road and write a puppet show for the next week where we'd unpack a Bible story. Then, obviously, getting older, getting involved in youth ministry at the church, and some weeks it's like I'm meant to be in church, kids or youth, but then someone is sick, and so you're filling in on sound, or you're filling in at the front desk, or you're filling in playing bass guitar. And so obviously was exposed to a heap of what it takes to pull off church. From that, I sort of branched my life into two streams. One stream has been corporate, so even to this day, I'm still involved in the corporate world. I'm a lead drafter in like the engineering space, and so was responsible for quite significant transportation projects, and so learned how to manage multiple teams all around the world on these projects. But then at the same time, I've been creative pastor, a kids pastor, helping grow kids ministry, youth ministry, and church as well. And so I feel like the part of my life has been trying to gel these two together and find what can we learn from both and what can I bring and give back to the church and for people who are maybe watching this today. Which then I suppose leads us into what we're doing now, which is Link Ministries Network. And so the story behind this actually sort of starts back in 2011. I'll take the gap and tell you what we would colloquially call in our team story time with Buckle, is what everybody calls me. And back in 2011, the brand Kit Kat actually did a promotion where they did the thing called the Kit Kat Desk Jockey. And so for it was 5 days a week, for like 5 or 6 hours a day for 5 weeks, there was this guy in a room live streaming to the world. And this is like 2011, so before YouTube was really widely being uptaken in society. And so traditional media was still sort of king back then. And I watched this content where I would send in a message as an adult and engage with this guy, and he would read out my name and read the messages that we sent, and we'd all engage. There were thousands of us around the world watching. And I remember at the time I was pastoring at a church in Melbourne. I was the creative pastor, and it hit me that I'm like, there's something in this. There's a way to build community outside of being stuck in a location. And I wonder what that looks like. So I didn't know what that meant, what God wanted that to be in my life. So I just played around with YouTube as a hobby. And I've always been into video editing for my whole life. But then during the lockdowns, I was the kids pastor of a church. And, on the Wednesday, we got the phone call saying, hey, we're going into lockdown in 3 days. We need to figure out a way to reach kids around the country by Sunday. And so in the space of 2 or 3 days, we built a film studio and we were live streaming kids ministry to like 5 or 6,000 kids a week across Australia. And I remember towards the end of that, God spoke to me. He's like, all right, I want you to take that. And I want you to now take that from your church to the church. So resigned my role and launched what we have now, which is Link Ministries Network. Launched it ourselves, and since then we've had a heap of people partner and help fund it. And we've taken some great ground, helping present the gospel to a digital generation of kids and youth. And so I'm pumped to unpack some of that and see where this conversation leads. So hopefully I didn't go too long there. I love telling stories, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, no, wow. You've got a lot under your belt that you've
Getting
acquired
old.
over the years.
You can tell by the bags under my eyes. I go shopping and I don't buy bags anymore because I just use these when I get groceries.
Oh, that's a good one. So I've had a sneak peek at your website, the Link Ministries Network, and I see that you offer curriculum, you offer coaching and training, and you offer live shows. What a big range of resources you have there. So tell us a bit about the curriculum that you offer.
Yeah, totally. I suppose the heart behind it and the way I describe it is there's a few different prongs. And so over the years of doing ministry, especially when I stepped out of creative ministry and into kids and youth ministry, one of the conversations I'd regularly have with senior pastors, which I'm hoping there's some watching today, it was one of two challenges. It was either challenge one, I know that kids ministry and family ministry and youth ministry is critical to my church, but I'm so flat out just trying to keep our church going that I don't have the time to be able to uplift and coach our team in how to do it. Or two, I actually am so busy running church, I don't know what's current and what's right for our kids and youth ministries to grow. And so what I wanted to do when we launched these curriculums was to fill that gap, to provide a resource to kids pastors and youth pastors where they don't need to spend hours and hours watching YouTube, finding the current trends, seeing what style of content kids are already engaging with. What we do for churches is we want to take that timeless message of Jesus and present it in a current method that kids and teens are watching. The way I describe it is with a generational shift we're seeing is that kids are moving away from traditional media, so your Netflix style content, which is scripted and they're character based, and they're shifting to what I call YouTube style content, which is personalities and they're actually connecting. So it's not characters, it's a connection. And they want to connect with a real YouTuber, with a real person. They want to hear their own name read. So that's what the curriculum is. We actually have 3 programs at the moment that we offer. There's a lower primary, which is prep grade 1, grade 2. It's a little bit in that play school vein where kids can do the crafts that we're doing on camera, and your kids leaders can actually email your kids' crafts to us, and we'll include them in future weeks so that kids are engaging and feeling like they're having a say in their content. We have a grade 3, 4, 5, 6 upper primary program where we read out shout outs. There's a Kahoot games. It's a YouTube style program where our hosts are real people living life and being chaotic and playing YouTube style games. And then we also have a lower secondary, so like a grade 7, 8, 9, which has been tailored around potentially however churches want to use it, but like a Sunday morning experience where your grade 6 kids have graduated out to grade 7, 8, 9, and they're not quite engaging in a Sunday service, but you want them to slowly integrate. Well, they can sit in for worship, sit together, enjoy that experience, and then go out to a forecourt or a cafe area and then watch the videos for grade 7, 8, 9. But the whole point of it is to release your team from having to do the programming for all of that and spend more time pastoring. So we'll do the programming, we'll come up with the funny videos, we'll put the effort into making the content, but that's not the end. That's just a foundation to then lead you and your teams and your ministry partners into faith conversations with your students. And so that's the whole way it's been crafted, to not replace you, but in fact to release you from the programming to do more time pastoring. And that's what we know from like the McCrindle research. It shows that these new generations are far less amazed by an experience and are far more connected through relationship. Like relationship is one of the highest priorities for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And yet if we're still running our weekends around an experience instead of relationship, we'll lose them. But we want you to build relationships, so we'll create the experience for you.
Wow. That sounds amazing.
It's a bit of a brain dump. There's a lot going on in my head. I don't sleep much.
No. So are you saying that you often come up with fresh content? So it's not just the same content.
So we don't pre-create, say, a year's worth or 2 years of content and then just dump it. Each video actually comes out each week. So we get lesson plans and the written material and the print material out for the term, so you can plan ahead, you can print it out. But the videos get released each Monday. And so a good example is last term, we actually had written a 4 or 5 week series. But then we were just staying aware of what the trends were on YouTube, and there was a bit of a pivot. And so we actually pulled the team together and we're like, hey, we haven't filmed the next 4 weeks yet. Let's rewrite the games. Let's change it because what kids are engaging with online has shifted a little bit. We've got the scope. Let's change it. And so we have that flexibility to pivot on a dime. And so even if language changes in kids and words like this, anyone that has young kids or involved in kids and youth ministry, there's these weird words that mean nothing to us, but it's the new vernacular for this generation. We can start including that in our content so that kids feel seen and heard. And whether that's in a real way or sometimes we do it funnily so kids laugh at how old we are, but they love it because they feel like it's what missions work is, right? When you go, this is what a good friend of mine in kids ministry has said for years. Kids and youth ministry is actually missionary work because it's a different culture. They have a different set of values and they speak a different language. And so we have to reframe our thinking in kids and youth ministry that we're going into a new culture with a new set of values and a different language. And if we don't carry those through when we go to them, we lose the connection and potentially lose the opportunity to speak the love of Jesus into their lives.
Yeah, that's so good. Wow. Yeah, I'm amazed about how you keep it up and keep it fresh and keep it current and so new. Yeah, excellent. So let's jump in and talk about the Link shows that
Perfect.
you do. So what age groups do you do and where do you go? And tell us a bit more about them.
So like I mentioned before, we have and I'll talk about each one a little more specifically because I think that'll help churches and potentially if there's like teachers or principals watching, we also offer this as Christian living for your school because once again, we want your teacher to, especially around the Christian education and culture of your school, spend less time programming and more time as the spiritual leader of those 25 kids, right? And so what we've done for prep grade 1, grade 2, it still is leaning a little bit into the Netflix style because kids having grown up will have come watching Bluey and these character-based shows. But it's over that grade 1, grade 2 where they start to pivot and transition over to like your Ryan's Toy reviews on YouTube and the vlog style content. So what we've done is crafted a show where my daughter is actually the main host now. We pivoted and rewrote the program just this year where it's built as like a playroom and we're in her room and then each week she gets, there's a little carrier pigeon we call Walter who delivers the mail each week and then Isla, they'll then get the mail and there'll be the craft for that week that the kids will be then able to do themselves at school or at church. And then she'll pull out like a mystery item that will have something to do with the topic. And then from that, for example, it might be on one of the weeks, the item was it was literally a branch. It was like a stick, it was like a small branch, and the story was obviously going to be Noah and the flood from memory. And so that just sets up the topic. Oh, why did Buckle send me a branch? Oh, we'll have to go watch the preach and see if we could figure out why there's a branch today, right? So it's a little bit scripted still, but it's Isla as a person, not as a character. So then from that, every week, there's always a preach. We're always unpacking the Word of God. And so what we've done is we actually split the preach element into 2 parts. And this is for all the programs. And this is because we are aware that kids' attention span is quite short. And so the first preach, it's like 2 or 3 minutes, and whoever's preaching will actually just tell a funny story that relates to the topic. And so it's a bit of vulnerability from whoever's sharing, and they'll tell a story. One of the examples I talk about and the preach that we do is about aligning our lives to God's plan. Now, that's such a weird abstract thought for a grade 2 or grade 1 kid to understand. But you know what they do understand? Their push bike. And so I'll start off by telling a story about, hey, I had this push bike that I would ride around, and I built this bike with my dad and my granddad, but the handlebars were out of alignment. Like the handlebars were sideways for the wheels to go straight. So it was really hard to steer. And one day I was riding and a dog ran out in front of me. And because I tried to steer away, because the wheel and the handlebars weren't in alignment, I crashed and it really hurt. Have you ever had a time in your life where you felt like it was a little bit out of control and you didn't know what to do? Well, later on, we're going to find out what the Bible says about following God's plan and how he helps us. Like that's, that style. Then it comes back to Isla and she'll do some arts and crafts and she'll show the kids arts that they've sent in. So that's one of our favorite moments where it's not just Isla doing her craft, but showing your kids, whether at home or kids at church or at school, sending their elements in, their artwork. And so kids are like, oh, I drew that. That was mine. Wow. And they know that thousands of kids around the world are seeing their artwork. Like how seen and included do students feel? Then every week after that, we go to an animated Bible story. One thing I'm adamant about is I reckon 48 out of 52 episodes every year, there's a Bible story, because we're just so aware that Bible literacy is so low. Because like my generation, the millennials, we're one of the least churched parental generations in like 100 years. So even baby boomers before us, they may be atheistic now, but they grew up in Sunday school. So there's still a biblical worldview. They know Noah, they know David and Goliath, they know the stories of the Bible. My generation didn't. And so like I was chatting with a Bible college mate, and he said, I'll say, hey, today we're talking about Nehemiah in the Bible to adults. And everyone who's like over 40 is like, oh yeah, I've wondered about that. But everyone under 40 is like, who's Nehemiah? No idea. So every week there's an animated Bible story. We're telling the stories of the Bible. From that, we'll go to Preach Part 2, where we unpack the meaning for the students. And we understand for Prep 1s and 2s, that may still go a little over their head at that young age. But as long as they remember the story of the Bible, that's a win. But it's like, hey, did you know that the Bible helps us keep our life following God's plan, so that when things come against us, like when life gets hard, we can get through it without crashing? They can understand that. And then we finish with a Bible quiz. So it's back to Isla, and she's like, who was the name of the person in the Bible story today? Was it Noah or was it Chris? You've got 5 seconds. And then kids in the room put their hands on the head or shoulder. And then you, as the educator in the room, can then see who got it right and then celebrate your students. So you can see every moment there is crafted where kids feel like they get to be a part of that experience. So that's Prep 1, Grade 2. And you can see all this on the website. So if anyone wants to head over to lmnetwork.com.au, the program is like you can get example material for the lesson plans, but all the videos are they're over on YouTube as well. So if you go to the website, there's a button that takes you to our YouTube channel. All this year's videos are still there, and they're live and they're accessible. So you can go check all this out for yourself.
Wow.
So then next is Grade 3, 4, 5. So Prep 1, 2, it's a 2-year program, scope and sequence, where essentially we're going over the whole Bible over 2 years. So after 2 years, kids have done almost every milestone story in the Bible. And obviously we repeat Easter and Christmas, because can't not do Easter and Christmas. Come on, it's a party, right?
No,
Plus, it's our favorite time of year. Did you have any questions on the Prep 1, 2 before I jump to Grade 3, 4, 5, 6?
Oh, no, this is good.
Perfect.
It's,
And actually, on that note, on the printed material, there's things like discussion questions where you can have a conversation with the students that have the maturity to talk about what you learned. But then there's the craft you can print out on your printer at church. Like, you don't need to go buy stuff for the most part. And then also, when you get an A4 page and you cut it in the middle and fold it into an A6 booklet, well, what we do is every week there's also a Bible story, like a printable Bible story that kids can color in. And our heart for that is they take that home and then get their mum and dad to read the Bible to them at home. So now we're starting to build faith formation in the home as well.
That's good.
And we have some really big dreams based on funding from people around stuff we want to do even bigger than that. So, I mean, if you're watching this and you're a business leader, or you're considering options for missions giving in your church, like, hit me up. We offer this for free to churches as a program, and we believe in that God's going to bring those finances in to keep this free for churches. So we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
So then grade 3, 4, 5, 6, now we're fully stepping into that YouTube style. So it's like a cold open. The hosts are doing something ridiculous in the studio. They're teasing each other. Like, there's a bit of banter. It's fun. They're not characters. They're themselves. And the two hosts there, one's actually a teacher and one's a chaplain. So like, they're Christians, they're high quality people that I trust and trust my children to. So we start with something fun. Then we go into, once again, Preach Part 1, same style, where we break it into 2 parts. Then they come back, and now the hosts in the middle will do a game, like a YouTube style challenge. So in 1 week, it was like the pedometer challenge, where you got to like shake to get the pedometer high. One of the weeks they had to open a jar of mayonnaise with their hands covered in Vaseline. So like, it was just funny.
Wow.
And so you see them like bantering and trying to cheat and, sabotage each other. So it's something fun. But then what we do is we do shout outs every week. So kids can actually send in a message. So when that happened, Miguel, who is the male host, he grabbed the tablecloth to open the mayonnaise jar. So the Vaseline had no impact. So then we had about a month of controversy where kids are sending in shout outs saying, Miguel cheated. That doesn't count. He shouldn't have gotten the points. And so we read those shout outs next week. And then the week after, it's all the other kids saying, no way. That was just him you being clever. There was no rules. And so now kids are actually having a say in that experience. And it went on for like a month. It was so funny, the shout outs that we got from the kids. So then from that, we go back to another animated Bible story. The artwork is a little more mature, obviously, so it's not kiddie, but it's a little more graphic novel style.
Yeah.
From that, we go to Preach Part 2, and then we do a wrap up. And so once again, that whole element is designed so that you in the classroom or you at church can then finish that video, then have a conversation. So, hey, remember today Buckle talked about aligning our lives like the handlebars? And then in your small group, let's say Buckle and I'm sitting with little Johnny, and I'm like, hey, is there anything in your life that you feel like you are doing God wants and you're in alignment, but maybe there's some areas you're not? And little Johnny might be like, oh, I feel like I could be kinder to people. And it's like, hey, let's come up with a plan together. And so we're trying to actually create opportunities for you as the educator in your classroom or in your church ministry to then disciple your kids, right? So we don't do worksheets anymore. Like, we don't offer worksheets. We offer some dig deeper style content for your Christian kids that have been saved since birth, and it gives them an activity they can do in their own time. But we really want this to be a conversation. And the goal of that is we want you as the leader or the pastor to create remember when moments, is what I call them. And so, like, let's say in 3 weeks' time, little Johnny comes up to me and he's like, hey, Buckle, do you remember when we talked about me being kind? Well, I was kind to my friend who we were fighting with, and now we're best friends again. I created a remember when moment. And so to us, that's critical. So that's that program. Once again, the printed materials on the website, lesson plans, Bible context, discussion questions, and then also the kids can do a Kahoot. There's a Kahoot on the website that students can jump on the same webpage where they send in shout outs, and students could do it themselves. They just go to a separate subdomain called thelinkcrew.com. They can do the Kahoot themselves. They can watch the episode themselves. And the beauty of all this is if a kid's away sick, the family's on holidays, they're at a sporting event, the videos are on YouTube. So now you as the kids pastor can text your families every week. Hey, families, this week we're continuing our series on Follow Me. We're looking at the story of Jesus and Zacchaeus. Remember, if you can't make it to church, the links are on YouTube. You can still watch the episodes. You can still send your shout outs in. And so now we're building that faith habit into a child's life. And then same thing for high school, exact same structure. Our hosts do something stupid at a cold open. We go to Preach Part 1. They do a challenge that we call Get It Done. And then for the high school students, they can actually vote on who got it done best on the website. Bible Story, which is like a really cool artwork. Preach Part 2. And then we actually then do discussion questions. So we put them up on the screen so that then you as a small group can then deep dive into the topic of the day. And so, that's the 3 programs. And if you want to know more, people can hit me up. Details are on the website. Happy to jump in a call. Me or one of our team would love to have a chat and support you. And maybe if you want to try the program, let us know. We could even jump in a Zoom call with your team and unpack some of this in a more practical way on how you could do it, or if you're a teacher in a classroom, if you want to get a free trial. So we charge schools, but it's free for churches. We'd love to have a convo. It's a lot of information I'm dumping in one hit, so I don't know if I've answered questions or not, but feel free to interject anytime while I have a sip of my coffee.
That's good. So do you help with coaching and training leaders as well?
Yeah, we do. So a lot of it is through relationship. We are in the process of developing a full program that my wife and I have developed. But right now, a lot of our coaching, it's around relationship, because we don't just want to throw a heap of lesson plans at you of what to do. But where are you at as a church? Let's jump on a call. Let's have a chat. We're actually we've actually just put in a heap of relationship managers, is what we call them, for the different states across Australia for this exact reason. Have a chat with you. Ask where you're at. We're going to start building Facebook groups and community groups where you can meet other kids pastors and youth pastors at a similar stage as you. You can bounce ideas off each other. And then if questions come through, we're going to jump in and answer them for you and just create a relationship, because we understand every kids ministry is different. Are you connected to a local school? Are you not connected to a local school? What's the demographic of your church? Are you struggling to find leaders? Like, what do you need? And let's just jump on a call and let's just talk it through and see how we can help.
Oh, that's fantastic, because that support is really needed in the kids and youth ministry.
It's isolating, especially kids ministry. Like, youth are getting better. And I know, like, the Youth Alive guys for the ACC movement have done such a good job for theirs. But I also know there's youth ministries that aren't connected with that from other movements that may feel a little separate. The reason we are non-denominational, we've specifically created ourselves that way, is we want to be a central hub of relationship where we're not trying to take anything from you. We just want to be a safe place where you can build community. So if you're a kids pastor or a youth pastor or a senior pastor looking for someone for your team, hit us up. We're building those groups right now. And so it's an open invitation. We'd love to include you.
Fantastic. Yes. And I encourage every everyone who's in kids ministry to just jump on the website and share these resources with your senior pastor and your kids ministry leader if you're on the team in kids ministry, and
it's all free as well for
get
churches. Like,
involved in.
if you jump on the website, click on register, say you're a church, create an account, you've got access. It's that easy. And then one of us will get in touch to see how we can help. Like, it's all free for churches. Like, our heart is we're going to give it to churches for free. And if it's a blessing, and if you're at a stage where it works for you and you've got missions giving available, consider us. But there's no obligation, there's no pressure, because we believe the churches that can will, which means we can help the churches that can't. So that's our heart.
That's fantastic. That's great. What a great ministry.
God's
Was there
opened up
anything
some
else you
amazing
wanted?
doors.
That's good. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Daniel?
I suppose it's just a vision, like our future now. So, like, in the last 3 months, YouTube analytics are telling us that we've had like over 40,000 individual viewers of the content. So we're able to present the gospel to a heap of people. In the last 12 months, we've had, I think it was like 400 people make decisions to follow Jesus. So God's doing some amazing things, but this is just the beginning of what we're believing that we want to create to support local churches and schools. So if you're watching this and it's triggered something in your heart that you'd love to work with us and partner with us to open up new doors, because I know right now, even like scripture in schools, there's opportunities that require, like, will take some effort or whatever it is. If you want to have a conversation with us around partnering and working together on things, like, we're so open to those conversations, like I said, because we want to be like the safe town hall for these conversations to happen. And we're super open-handed. So if we can help you, please let us know. Or if there's an opportunity to partner, or if you're a teacher in a school and you just want to give it a crack in your classroom, we'll set you up with a free account to give it a go. Like, we just want to help you as the church and as schools to take the timeless message of Jesus, present it to a digital generation. That pretty much wraps it up. That's our heart.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Daniel. And yes, jump to the website. It's www.lmnetwork.com.au. And you can sign up straight away and get access to the resources instantly. What a blessing you are, Daniel. Thank you very much for being here today. And we just pray God will bless your ministry and that everyone else be blessed from it.
Thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm looking forward to connecting with anyone listening. If you want to hit me up, it's Buckle, like my last name, like a belt buckle, at lmnetwork.com.au. Shoot me an email. Love to have a chat as well and see how we can help. But thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thanks.